So, the first and most important step in doing absolutely nothing is lying down. Not sitting, not standing, not even leaning on something. Just lying down. It sounds simple, right? But trust me, it's a whole entire for our art form. First, you need to find the perfect spot. Maybe it's your bed, maybe it's your couch, maybe it's the floor, which is just like a bed, except flatter and harder and a little more floory. Some people think rocks are uncomfortable. But honestly, if you squint your imagination really hard, even a rock can feel like a giant pillow. A really stubborn pillow, but still a pillow. The truth is, the best place to lie down is wherever you already are. Because moving too much, well, that's already doing something. And remember, we don't want to do. We want to not do. So, plop yourself down, slowly, like a starfish drifting to the bottom of the ocean. Let your body sink into whatever surface you choose. Don't rush it. Don't fight it. If you feel the floor hugging your back, that's just gravity giving you a sleepy cuddle. Now, let's talk about pillows. Pillows are basically clouds that decided to stay on Earth. But they don't judge you.
They don't complain. They just sit there, waiting for you to flop your head down. Big pillows, little pillows, lumpy pillows, even that old one with the corner that kind of smells like popcorn. They all work. Pick one, or two, or a mountain of them if you want to disappear like a marshmallow in hot cocoa. The important thing is to let your head rest, so your brain feels like it's sinking into pudding. Not real pudding, of course. That would be sticky, just the idea of pudding. Blankets are the next step. Some people think blankets are only for cold nights. Wrong. Blankets are for nothing nights. Wrap yourself in one and suddenly you're a burrito of coziness. Or a giant snail hiding in its shell. Or a sea cucumber just vibing on the ocean floor. Blankets tell your body, shh, don't worry, you don't have to move, you don't have to think. Just stay here forever. And that is the exact message we want. Now, let's think about your arms. Arms are tricky, because when you lie down, suddenly you have to decide, where do they go? By your sides, over your stomach, behind your head like a pillow? The secret is, there is no wrong answer. If your arms feel weird, just wiggle them a little until they don't. And if they still feel weird, that's fine too. Being a little uncomfortable is just another way of being comfortable in disguise. Feet. Yes, feet matter too. Some people like to stick their feet out from under the blanket. Some people like to keep them tucked in. I once tried sticking just one foot out, and it felt like I had achieved perfect balance. Like half of me was cozy and half of me was free. Try it sometime. It might be the greatest invention since mayonnaise. And if you can't decide, don't. Just keep changing your mind until you get too sleepy to care. Now that you're lying down, the real fun begins. Because lying down isn't just about your body. It's about your mind. Your thoughts need to lie down too. Imagine your brain putting on pajamas, climbing into bed, and pulling up a tiny blanket. Your brain is tired. It's been thinking all day. About snacks, about bubbles, about whether socks have feelings. Now it finally gets to rest. Here's a trick. Pick one small, boring thing to think about, like a pebble, or a pancake, or a very slow jellyfish. Focus on that one thing, so slowly, until the rest of your thoughts start yawning and drifting away. Before you know it, your mind will be doing nothing, just like your body. Don't worry if you get distracted. Maybe a thought about chores floats by. Maybe you remember something embarrassing you said 5 years ago. Maybe you start wondering if you left the fridge open. That's okay. Just gently tell the thought, shh, not now. We're busy lying down. The thought will leave like a bubble rising to the surface and then pop. And you'll go back to your pebble, or your pancake, or your jellyfish. Another tip. Listen. What do you hear? Maybe the hum of the room. Maybe the sound of your own breathing. Maybe. Absolutely nothing. That's the best sound of all, because nothing is exactly what we're aiming for. And speaking of breathing, take a slow breath in. Don't count it. Counting is math, and math is something. We don't want something. We want nothing. Just feel the air slide in, and then slide out, like a lazy tide washing over a beach. Your chest rises. Your chest falls. You don't even have to try. Breathing is like the universe's gift of automatic nothing. The more you lie there, the more you'll notice a funny thing. You start forgetting where your body ends and the bed begins. Is that your arm, or is that just the blanket? Are you sinking into the mattress? Or is the mattress sinking in you? It doesn't matter. Because either way, you're becoming part of the great cozy ocean of nothing. Now that you're officially lying down, let's explore what that really means. Most people think lying down is just flopping. Like when you trip over a sandcastle and boom, you're down. But no. Lying down on purpose is a slow dance between you and the universe. First, notice how heavy you feel. That's not you being lazy. That's the earth pulling you closer. The earth is saying, hey, buddy, just stay here with me. Don't worry about floating away. I've got you. And you say back in your head, thanks, Earth. I'm busy doing nothing, so this works out great. Let your shoulders relax. They don't need to carry anything right now, and not even a tiny thought. Your shoulders are like jelly, just melting into the bed. Imagine they've turned into 2 scoops of melting ice cream, sliding softly down a cone. Except instead of dripping everywhere, they're just sinking into calmness. Your back is next. Sometimes your back tries to hold itself up even when you're lying down. But not today. Let the mattress carry it. Pretend the bed is a raft and you're just drifting on the surface of the ocean. The water sways a little, back and forth, but you don't fall off because rafts don't let you down. Well, unless they deflate, but this one doesn't. This one is perfect. Now, let's check in on your face. Faces do a lot of work. Smiling, frowning, eating ice cream, talking about nothing with friends. But when you're lying down, your face deserves a vacation too. Let your eyebrows drop. They've been up there all day, pointing at things. Let your cheeks sink. They've been carrying your smile, or your frown, or both. Let your mouth hang open if it wants. Nobody's judging, not even the walls. And if a little drool happens, congratulations, that's a sign of expert level nothing. Your eyes. Oh, your eyes. Close them gently, like curtains at the end of a very long, very slow play. Or leave them half open, staring at the ceiling until they forget how to stay awake. It doesn't matter, because eyes love to rest. They'll do it for you when they're ready. Now let's talk about time. When you're lying down, time doesn't really exist. Minutes, hours. They all blur into one big, stretchy bubble. Think of time like taffy. It just keeps pulling longer and longer until you don't even remember where it started. And that's good. Because when you're busy doing nothing, you don't need clocks. You don't need schedules. You don't need alarms. The only time that matters is nap time. And nap time is all the time. Here's another secret of lying down. You don't have to get it right the first try. Sometimes you roll to one side, and it doesn't feel quite right. So you roll to the other side. Then you roll onto your back. Then maybe onto your stomach. Then maybe diagonally across the whole bed. This isn't failure. This is research. You're experimenting with the science of nothing. And the more you wiggle, the closer you get to finding that one perfect position. The position where your body sighs and says, yes, this is it. I'm staying here forever. But here's the funny part. Sometimes that perfect position only lasts 5 minutes. Then your leg feels weird, or your arm falls asleep, or your blanket suddenly feels like it's made of sandpaper. That's okay. That's just your body reminding you that even in nothing, there's a little bit of something. So you roll again and again. Each roll is a new adventure, a journey across the mattress, a slow motion tumble into comfort. Now, let's imagine what's happening inside your head while you're lying down. It's like a quiet parade. Thoughts march by one at a time, really, really slowly. A thought about food floats by carrying a balloon. A thought about chores drags its feet, looking bored. A thought about absolutely nothing strolls past, whistling. You don't have to join the parade, just lie there and watch it go by. Eventually the parade gets tired too, and it wanders off down the street and disappears. Your breathing keeps you company while you lie there. It's steady, gentle, in, like the tide washing up, out, like the tide slipping back to sea. If you listen closely, you'll notice it has a rhythm, like a song, but not the kind of song you have to remember the words to. It's the kind of song that goes, shh, and that's it. That's the whole song. And it plays forever. Sometimes when you're lying down, you start to feel floaty, like you're not even touching the bed anymore, like you're drifting in space on your own little pillow spaceship. Stars twinkle above you. Planets spin slowly around, and you're just there, lying down, being the captain of doing absolutely nothing. It's a big, cozy universe, and the best part is, you don't have to explore it. You can just float. And if your body feels heavy instead of floaty, that's fine too. Heavy means the earth is hugging you extra tight. It's saying, don't worry, I'll hold you right here. You don't need to go anywhere. So whether you feel like a balloon drifting away or a rock sinking into the sand, both are perfect. Because both are still nothing. Sometimes when you're lying down, your brain tries to trick you. It whispers, shouldn't you be doing something? And you might almost listen. But then you remember, the whole point is to do nothing. So you gently pat that thought on the head and tell it to go play outside while you stay right here, sinking deeper into comfort. There's a funny thing about lying down. The longer you stay there, the more your body forgets it even has to move. Your arms, forget they can reach. Your legs, forget they can walk. Your fingers, forget they can wiggle. And your toes, they just give up entirely. They curl in under the blanket like little seashells saying, good night, world. See you never. You might notice tiny twitches as you lie there. A little shiver in your foot. A wiggle in your hand. A random jolt like your body remembered it was supposed to jump but then changed its mind. Don't worry about that. That's just your body practicing how to let go. It's saying, oops, I almost did something, but nah, nothing's better. Now let's think about sounds again. Maybe you hear the faint hum of the world, the buzz of electricity in the walls, a car far away, or maybe nothing at all. Silence is like a blanket, too. It wraps around your ears and tucks them in. And if you do hear something, like a creak or a drip, just imagine it's the house yawning. Even houses need naps. Some people worry while lying down. What if I don't fall asleep, they say. But here's the secret, it doesn't matter. Because lying down is already enough. You don't need sleep to win at nothing. You just need to rest. If your eyes stay open, fine. If they close, also fine. If they flutter open and close like a very slow clam, perfect. Every version counts as lying down. Imagine you're a starfish on the ocean floor. Starfish don't ask, "Am I asleep yet?" They just lie there, for hours, for days, for years. And they're perfectly happy about it. Be the starfish. Just exist. No goals, no missions, no errands. Only soft stillness. Another good trick. Imagine the room itself is lying down with you. The walls are stretching out, sighing. The ceiling is settling in for a nap. Even the lamp is dozing off, light dimming like eyelids half closed. Everything around you agrees. Yes, this is a lying down zone. Nobody's moving here. Let's not forget about the air. When you're lying down, the air feels thicker somehow. It moves slower. It settles on your skin like a cool sheet. Every breath pulls that gentle air in. Every breath lets it slide away. It's like you're rocking back and forth without moving at all. Rocked to sleep by the invisible hands of nothing. If your mind starts wandering again, that's okay. It might bring you silly thoughts. Like, what if pillows could talk? Or do jellyfish ever take naps? Or, like, if I'm lying down, does that make me furniture? Let the silly thoughts float by like balloons. You don't have to answer them. You don't have to chase them. They're just passing guests at the party of nothing. Now feel the weight of the blanket again. It presses down just a little. Not heavy, not crushing. Just enough to remind you that you're here. It's like the ocean resting a gentle hand on your shoulder saying, "Shh, everything's fine." The more you notice it, the safer you feel. The safer you feel, the less you want to move. And the less you move, the more you melt into the bed. Sometimes when you've been lying down long enough, your thoughts blur. You forget where one ends and another begins. You start thinking about sandwiches, then suddenly about clouds, then suddenly about a sandwich-shaped cloud. That's the sweet spot. That's when your brain has officially clocked out and joined you in the art of nothing. And if you ever feel restless, just remind yourself, there's nowhere to go. Nothing to fix. Nothing to prove. The world will keep spinning even while you stay still. The ocean will keep swaying even while you nap. The stars will keep twinkling even while you doze. You're allowed to pause. You are allowed to lie down and let the universe do all the moving for you. Picture your body as a sandcastle. The longer you lie down, the more the tide slowly washes over it. Not destroying it, just smoothing the edges. The sharp corners turn around. The hard lines blur. Until finally, you're just a soft little hill of sand, resting peacefully, part of the shore. And the best part? You don't even have to try. Because lying down isn't work. It's the opposite of work. It's like work's sleepy cousin who forgot to set an alarm. And that cousin is your best friend. Sometimes when you've been lying down long enough, you start to forget what you were even doing in the first place. And that's the true magic. Because doing nothing isn't about remembering. It's about forgetting. forgetting all the busy, loud, distracting things that wanted your attention. The floor isn't asking for anything. The bed doesn't need anything. The blanket is happy just lying there with you. So if everything around you can be content with nothing, why shouldn't you be? Think about the ocean again. The waves move in and out, in and out. But if you zoom out far enough, the ocean isn't really going anywhere. It just sways forever, calm and endless. That's what lying down feels like. You're not heading toward a finish line. You're just swaying, drifting, existing. Now, let's check in with your thoughts one more time. Are they softer now, sleepier? Maybe they're moving in slow motion. Like jellyfish, pulsing gently through the water. Or like clouds floating so lazily that even the sky forgets they're there. That's exactly where we want them. No sharp edges, no speed. Just soft, floaty, nothing thoughts. Let your imagination play for a bit. Pretend you're lying on a giant pillow the size of the world. The pillow is so big you can't even find the edges. Everywhere you stretch, soft. Everywhere you roll, soft. Even the sky above you feels padded and gentle. It's like the whole universe turned into a mattress, just to keep you cozy. Or imagine you're a rock at the bottom of a pond. The water ripples above you, but you don't move. Fish swim by, but you don't wave. You just stay still, heavy and peaceful, part of the pond forever. That's the ultimate nothing. Your breathing continues, slow and steady. Maybe it even lines up with your heartbeat like two best friends walking side by side. Step, step. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm lulls you deeper and deeper into calmness. Your eyelids grow heavier, not because you're forcing them, not because you're telling them to close, but because they simply want to. They're tired of holding the world. They'd rather hold nothing. And nothing is exactly what you've been practicing. Now, imagine your whole body is glowing faintly like a lantern in the deep sea. The glow doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't shine bright. It doesn't call for attention. It just exists, dim and calm, lighting up nothing in particular. That's you, lying down, a tiny, sleepy light, floating in a world of stillness. If a random itch appears, don't fight it. Scratch it gently, then melt back down. If you need to roll again, roll slowly, like a log drifting in a lazy river. Every adjustment is just another way of saying, I'm still here. I'm still doing nothing. And if you start drifting in and out of little dreams, that's perfect too. One moment you're in your bed. The next, you're floating through a jellyfish parade. The next, you're back in bed again. Dreams and reality blur together, and soon you can't tell the difference. That's the sweet spot. The exact middle of lying down and drifting away. Remember, there's no wrong way to do this. Whether you lie flat like a board, curl up like a shrimp, or sprawl like a pancake that forgot to stay round, it's all correct. Because every shape, every angle, every position is still lying down. And lying down is still nothing. Take another breath. Let it in like a slow tide. Let it out like a long sigh. Feel how little effort it takes. Almost like the air is moving itself and you're just the ocean it flows through. Notice how still you become. Your hands quiet. Your feet still. Your thoughts melting. You've entered the soft silence of doing nothing. And the longer you stay, the easier it becomes. Until finally, you're not even trying anymore. You're simply being. So here you are, lying down. Not moving. Not thinking too hard. Not worrying. Not planning. Just letting the world spin on its own while you rest in the gentle center of it all. And that, my friend, is the art of lying down. It's not a trick. It's not a skill. It's just remembering that you don't always have to do. Sometimes, the most important thing is to simply not do. To lie down, sink in, melt away, and drift into the softest, quietest, sweetest nothing. So, you've mastered lying down. That's step one, the foundation, the beginning of all great nothing. Now we move to step two, which is staring into space. It sounds easy. It sounds like you've already done it 1,000 times. But trust me, this is where the art of nothing really gets fancy. Because staring into space is more than just looking. It's looking without seeing. It's watching without thinking. It's focusing on nothing until nothing becomes everything. First, pick your target. It doesn't have to be special. In fact, the less special, the better. Maybe it's the wall. Maybe it's the ceiling. Maybe it's a corner of the room you've never paid attention to before. Or maybe it's your sock, sitting crumpled in the distance like a tired little mountain. When you've picked your target, just stare. Don't blink too hard. Don't squint. Just let your eyes rest on it. Pretend your eyeballs have taken a nap, but they forgot to close the curtains. At first, your brain will try to name what you're seeing. That's a wall, it will say. That's paint, it will add. That's a weird smudge. Where did that come from? But that's okay. Let your brain chatter for a bit. It will eventually get bored. It will run out of labels. And then, finally, it will just sit there with you, staring at the smudge, not caring what it is anymore. That's when the magic begins. Because soon, the wall isn't a wall. It's a pancake, or a jellyfish, or a door to another universe made entirely of mashed potatoes. Your eyes don't know the difference. They just see shapes and shadows, and your imagination fills in the rest. It's like daydreaming, but with your eyes wide open. If you're staring at the ceiling, you might notice little patterns you never saw before. Tiny cracks that look like rivers, shadows that look like mountains, a spot of light that looks like a star. Suddenly, you're not in your room anymore. You're lying under a whole new sky. A sky that belongs only to you, where clouds drift by slower than snails on vacation. And if you pick the sock, well, socks are amazing. Stare long enough and you'll see a face in it. Or maybe it looks like a sleeping whale, or a grumpy potato, or a wizard who lost his hat. The longer you stare, the sillier it gets, until you can't even remember what a sock was supposed to look like in the first place. Don't try too hard, though. Staring into space works best when you're not forcing it. Let your eyes go soft. Let your focus blur. Pretend your vision is a lazy jellyfish, pulsing but not really swimming anywhere. That's when the world begins to dissolve into nothingness. Sometimes your mind will drift while you're staring. You'll forget you're even staring. You'll blink and realize, oh yeah, I was looking at that wall. That's perfect. That means you slipped into the space between staring and dreaming. It means your brain is learning how to nap with its eyes open. Now here's the fun part. When you stare long enough, you start seeing things that aren't really there. The pattern shift. The shadows wiggle. The wall breathes. The sock sighs. Is it real? No. Does it matter? Also no. Because we're not here for real. We're here for nothing. If you want, try counting while you stare. But don't count numbers. Numbers are too serious. Instead, count shapes. 1 blob, 2 blobs, 3.5 blobs that look like they're holding hands. The counting doesn't have to make sense. The whole point is to confuse your brain just enough that it gives up and sinks into stillness. You might even notice your body forgetting about itself while your eyes are busy. Your arms don't care anymore. Your legs don't care. Your face melts. Your breathing slows. It's like your body says, "You've got this, eyes. We'll just rest while you stare." If you feel your eyes getting heavy, let them. Close them halfway. Close them all the way. Even with your eyes shut, you're still staring. You're staring at the inside of your eyelids now. And trust me, eyelids are full of the best patterns. Swirls, sparkles, little flickers of light. Your own private fireworks show, but softer, quieter, slower. Like fireworks that decided they'd rather be clouds. And if you drift off while staring, well, that's the best ending of all. Because it means you've stared yourself straight into a dream. The funny thing about staring into space is that the longer you do it, the less space even looks like space. At first, it's just a wall or a ceiling or a sock or whatever you chose. But then, slowly, it becomes something else, something softer, something dreamier, something made entirely out of nothing. Maybe the wall you're staring at turns into an ocean. Not a noisy ocean with crashing waves and shouting seagulls, but a quiet ocean. One that hums low and steady like it's been asleep for 100 years. The ripples move slow as molasses. And if you look closely enough, you'll swear you see a little fish drifting by, except it's not really there. That's just your imagination filling the emptiness with sleepy company. Or maybe the ceiling becomes a night sky. Tiny dots in the paint turn into stars. A faint shadow becomes a galaxy. A crack stretching across the surface becomes the Milky Way itself. You stare, and you're not in your room anymore. You're floating in space, your body a quiet little comet, your breath as slow as the planet's spinning silence. Even socks can do this trick. 1 minute, they're just socks. The next, they're a giant mountain range stretching across a tiny horizon. Or they're an old sea captain with his mouth open, telling you a bedtime story about how he once fought a very sleepy octopus. Or maybe they're just socks. But socks that glow faintly in your imagination, like they're proud to finally be noticed. The important part is, don't judge what you see. Don't tell yourself that's silly or that's impossible. Because silly and impossible are exactly what we're aiming for. They're softer than real things. They don't weigh anything. They're made of fluff and daydreams, and that's perfect for doing nothing. Let your eyes drift out of focus. Don't work too hard to keep them sharp. Imagine they're little boats bobbing on the water, swaying back and forth. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. But either way, they're floating, not steering. They've given up on the idea of getting anywhere. And in that giving up, they find peace. Now, notice what happens when you blink slowly. The world disappears for a second. Total darkness. And then, when your eyes open, the world comes back, but softer. It feels less like reality and more like a dream you accidentally woke up inside of. Try blinking slower and slower until each blink feels like a mini-nap. Each time your eyelids fall, they whisper, "See you later, space." And each time they rise, they whisper, "Oh, hey, you're still here." If your mind wanders while you're staring, let it. Maybe it starts thinking about food again. You might stare at the wall, and suddenly it looks like a giant pancake with syrup running down. The funny thing about staring into space is that people think you're doing nothing. But really, you're doing everything that matters. You're letting your brain stretch out like a sea star on a sunny rock. You're letting your breath become its own lullaby. You're letting time itself get so slow that it almost forgets how to tick. You might notice your breathing syncing up with your gaze. Your eyes drift softly across the space, and so does your chest, rising and falling. Like you're floating on a giant inflatable raft, except the raft is invisible, and the ocean is made of clouds. And the clouds are very sleepy. When you really give yourself permission to stare, you stop expecting anything. No pictures, no thoughts, no discoveries. Just space. The kind of space that makes you forget what day it is, or whether you left the fridge open, or whether you were supposed to do something important. Because in this exact moment, there's nothing important except the blankness in front of you. Sometimes people will say, "Patrick, don't you get bored of staring at nothing?" And I tell them, no, because the nothing always changes. Even when it looks the same, it feels different. The same wall at 3 p.m. is a different wall at midnight. The same ceiling in summer is a different ceiling in winter. And if you stare long enough, even 1 second feels like a brand new space to discover. And besides, boredom is just another kind of space. It's like the space inside your head yawns open, and suddenly there's more room to wander around. So instead of running away from boredom, I invite it in. "Hello, boredom. Come sit next to me. You can stare too." And boredom doesn't complain. Boredom never has anywhere else to be. Now let's talk about the magical moment that sometimes happens when you stare too long. You know the one. It's when you blink, and suddenly you feel like the whole room has shifted. The chair looks a little farther away. The lamp feels taller. The air feels heavier or lighter, or like it isn't even there at all. It's almost like you slipped into a parallel universe. But all you did was relax your eyes. And that's the gift of space. It shows you how thin the line is between the ordinary and the extraordinary. One moment you're just staring at a patch of wall. The next, that patch of wall feels like a giant canvas that stretches forever. Like you could walk right into it and keep walking for years without ever finding the end. And maybe you will, in your dreams. Sometimes when I stare into space, I see little floaty sparkles drifting across my vision. Little specks of light that dance around like they're swimming in the ocean of my eyes. And instead of shooing them away, I let them dance. I imagine them as tiny jellyfish, glowing softly in the water, or as dandelion seeds drifting through the air, or as stars way out there in the deepest corners of space, waving hello. If your eyes get heavy and start to close, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to keep them open. Closed eyes are just another way of staring into space. The space inside your own mind. And that space is even bigger. With your eyes shut, whole galaxies can appear in an instant. Swirls of color, flashes of memory, half-formed dreams. And you don't even have to try. They just arrive like clouds drifting across the sky. Some people call this zoning out. I call it zoning in. Because when you stare into space, you're not really losing focus. You're focusing on the deepest, softest thing of all, the feeling of simply being here, right now, without needing to be anywhere else. And that's the most relaxing focus there is. And the longer you stare, the more your body understands. Your shoulders sink. Your arms feel heavier. Your hands forget they exist. Your heartbeat slows, steady and gentle, like a drum playing far away. Even your toes stop caring about being toes. Everything blends into one soft, sleepy whole. This is when staring turns into floating. Floating in time. Floating in space. Floating in the idea that you don't need to do anything at all because the staring itself is already enough. It's not practice. It's not preparation. It's the whole point. So let yourself sink even deeper into that gaze. And don't fight the yawns. Don't chase the thoughts. Don't worry if you forgot what you were staring at in the first place. That's just proof you're doing it right. Space doesn't need to be remembered. It just needs to be felt. There's something magical about realizing that staring into space isn't wasted time. It's actually the best kind of time. Time that isn't rushing anywhere. Most time has somewhere it wants to go. Like, hurry up, Patrick, you're late for work. Or, Patrick, your nap is already 2 naps overdue. But staring time? Staring time has nowhere else to be. It just stretches itself out like a hammock between 2 palm trees and invites you to lie down inside it. And the hammock never says, hey, hurry up. It just sways slowly. Forward, backward, forward, backward, until you can't tell which direction is which anymore. That's how staring feels. It rocks you gently until your thoughts lose track of up and down. The trick is, you don't have to look at anything special. A blank wall will do. The ceiling. A shell sitting in the corner. Even a single bubble floating by. Space doesn't demand entertainment. It is the entertainment. And sometimes, when you're very quiet, you notice how space sounds. Yes, space has a sound. Not a loud one. Not like music or waves or seagulls yelling at each other. It's softer. It's the sound of nothing happening. The sound of quiet air touching your skin. The sound of your own heartbeat echoing faintly in your ears. The sound of the room forgetting it exists. And when I listen to that sound, I realize this is what peace sounds like. It's not grand or fancy. It's not filled with fireworks or applause. It's just soft. Like the whole world decided to take a nap at the same time. And if your mind starts to wander, that's okay too. Maybe you'll remember a sandwich you ate once. Or a joke you forgot the punchline to. Or a dream you had when you were 5 that still makes no sense. Let the thoughts come. Let the thoughts go. They're just little visitors wandering through your space. Some stay for a second. Some stay for a while. But none of them need to be chased. They know the way out. That's why staring into space is never about control. It's about surrender. You don't wrestle with the emptiness, you let it hold you. Like the ocean holds a starfish. Like a pillow holds your head. Like the night sky holds the stars. And speaking of stars, sometimes I think staring into space is practice for staring at the real space. The one above us. The giant dark blanket with the tiny light sewn into it. Every time you stare at a blank wall, you're actually practicing for staring at the universe. The great big, endless everything. And the funny thing is, both kinds of space make you feel the same. Small, calm, sleepy. Like you belong to something that's too big to ever figure out, so you don't even try. You just smile at it. and let it smile back. The longer you sit with space, the more you realize you don't need to do anything to deserve it. You don't need to earn your rest. You don't need to check off a list first. Space is always ready, always waiting, always open, like an empty chair at a dinner table, saving a seat just for you. So if your eyes are closing now, let them. If your body feels heavier now, let it. If your thoughts are turning into soft, blurry clouds, let them drift wherever they want. That's not you failing to pay attention. That's you paying attention to the deepest thing of all, rest. And maybe, just maybe, when you wake up later, you'll remember this. That staring into space isn't just a silly thing Patrick does. It's a secret doorway. A doorway into stillness where the only rule is you don't have to do anything. Not one single thing. You just, exist. And somehow that's enough. So go ahead. Keep staring. Or close your eyes and let the space keep staring at you. It doesn't matter. Space never runs out. It just keeps being there, endlessly patient, endlessly soft. And as you float deeper and deeper into that space, maybe you'll notice something wonderful. You don't even know where staring ends and dreaming begins. The two melt together, like jelly on toast, like clouds in the sky, like you and your bed fitting together perfectly. And when that happens, when the space becomes the dream and the dream becomes the space, you'll know you've mastered the art of doing nothing at all, which, if you ask me, is the greatest skill a starfish can ever learn. Snacks. Oh, glorious, mysterious, magical snacks. There's something about them that makes life worth napping for. Some people dream about treasure chests filled with gold. I dream about treasure chests filled with cookies. And sometimes, if I'm really lucky, the cookies are already half-eaten, so I don't have to do all the work. Now, the funny thing about snack breaks is, well, they don't always need to go anywhere. Some breaks are about finishing something. Like, I'll take a break, eat a sandwich, and then I'll feel energized to keep going. But my snack breaks, they're about nothing. That's the beauty of a snack break that goes nowhere. It doesn't have a finish line. There's no race. No mission accomplished banner waiting to be unrolled. It's just you, your snack, and the endless possibility of maybe another snack. Sometimes I like to make my snack break as dramatic as possible. I'll open a bag of chips with a loud crinkle, as if I've just discovered buried treasure. Then I'll sit down slowly like a king about to enjoy a royal feast. Except my royal feast is just a single chip. One chip. And I'll stare at it for a while, thinking, wow, crumbs. That's the beauty of a snack break that goes nowhere. It doesn't have a finish line. There's no race. No mission accomplished banner waiting to be unrolled. It's just you, your snack, and the endless possibility of maybe another snack. Sometimes I like to make my snack break as dramatic as possible. I'll open a bag of chips with a loud crinkle, as if I've just discovered buried treasure. Then I'll sit down slowly like a king about to enjoy a royal feast. Except my royal feast is just a single chip. One chip. And I'll stare at it for a while, thinking, wow, this chip has seen things. This chip has stories to tell. Then after all that suspense, chomp. It's gone in 2 seconds. And I feel like I just accomplished nothing. Beautiful, perfect nothing. That's when you know the snack break worked. When it didn't move you forward at all. When you're sitting in the exact same spot, feeling just a little saltier than before. That's when you've truly mastered the art of going nowhere. The best part? Snacks have their own rhythm. They slow you down without you even realizing it. You can't eat chips fast forever. Eventually, you pause. You lean back. You let the crumbs fall where they may. And that pause, that's where the magic lives. It's in the spaces between bites, when you're not chewing, not planning, not even thinking, just existing. Just being the kind of starfish who eats one bite, then lets the whole ocean drift around him in slow motion. And sometimes, you don't even need the snack itself. Sometimes the break is enough. You sit with your empty plate, your empty bowl, your empty bag, and you realize, wow, doing nothing tastes just as good as eating something. It's a snack for the soul. Of course, sometimes the snacks do funny things. Like you think you'll eat just one cookie, but then the cookie looks lonely, so you eat a second. Then the third cookie feels left out, so you eat that one too. Before you know it, you've eaten the whole plate, yet somehow you've gone absolutely nowhere. You're still in the same spot, only a little crumblier. That's the charm of a Patrick snack break. The thing is, snacks don't have to be exciting to be perfect. In fact, the more boring they are, the better. A plain piece of toast, a slightly stale pretzel, a handful of cereal with no milk. These are the best kind of snacks for doing nothing. Because they don't distract you, they just exist alongside you, quietly keeping you company while your brain drifts like a jellyfish. And the longer you let the snack break go on, the less it feels like eating at all. It becomes more like a meditation. You're not chasing hunger. You're not chasing flavor. You're just slowly, calmly letting tiny bites carry you through time. And each bite is another reminder. You don't have to move fast. You don't have to move at all. You can just sit here forever. That's why I call it the snack break that goes nowhere. Because it's not about reaching the end of the bag. It's about floating gently in the middle. Like being in the middle of a nap, not quite awake, not quite asleep. It's a delicious pause button for the whole world. Now, let me tell you something very important about snack breaks. Sometimes, you don't even have the snack, and that's perfectly fine. Because sometimes the idea of a snack is just as filling as the snack itself. Like, have you ever thought about a sandwich so hard you almost tasted it? Bread, lettuce, cheese, maybe a slice of tomato, and you can practically hear the crunch before you've even made it. That's called imaginary eating, and it's one of my favorite activities during a snack break. Well, because with imaginary snacks, you never run out. You never have to worry about crumbs or washing dishes or sharing with SpongeBob. You can just imagine the world's biggest stack of pancakes and then imagine eating them one by one forever. It's the snack break that goes nowhere, but also everywhere at the same time. Now, you might be asking, Patrick, why not just eat a real snack instead of imagining one? And my answer is simple. Because real snacks disappear. But imaginary snacks, they last forever. Plus, you can imagine flavors that don't even exist. Like a cookie that tastes like taking a nap. Or ice cream that tastes like watching clouds drift across the sky. Or popcorn that tastes like silence. Silence-flavored popcorn. Crunchy, but also not crunchy. And that's the whole point of a snack break. It's not about filling your belly. It's about filling your time with the softest, coziest nothing. Whether you eat something real or just think about it, you're doing the same important job, going nowhere, very slowly. Now let's talk about pacing. A lot of people rush their snacks. They eat so fast, the snack break over before it even starts. But not me. I treat every bite like it's a little boat floating across the ocean of my mouth. Each crunch is like a wave rolling gently to the shore. And when I swallow, that's like watching the boat disappear over the horizon. It's not about hunger. It's about the journey. The long, slow, pointless, wonderful journey. Sometimes I'll take a whole minute just to look at a chip before eating it. I'll admire the little curves, the tiny bubbles in the surface, the sparkle of salt under the light. And by the time I actually eat it, I've already enjoyed it twice, once with my eyes and once with my mouth. That's the deluxe snack experience. And you don't even need a coupon. Another trick is spacing your snacks out so far apart that they almost feel imaginary. Like one peanut now, and then wait. A really long wait. Maybe even an hour. Then another peanut. That way you stretch one handful of peanuts into a whole afternoon of absolutely nothing. It's like magic. Lazy, crunchy magic. Of course, sometimes the snacks never make it into your mouth at all. And that's okay, too. Maybe you drop a cookie on the floor and you just stare at it thinking, maybe the floor wanted a snack break, too. Or maybe you pour yourself a bowl of cereal, but then you spend 20 minutes just stirring it around. It's not wasted time. It's beautiful nothing time. Every circle of the spoon is like another yawn for your brain. Every little splash is like a lullaby. And when the cereal gets soggy, that's just time telling you it wants to nap too. Now here's a big secret. The best snack breaks are the ones where you don't even remember what you ate. You sit down with something crunchy or chewy, and then hours later you think, wait, did I finish that? Or did it just disappear? That's how you know the break was successful. Because if you can't remember the snack, then the snack did its job. It carried you away into the land of sleepy nonsense. And sometimes the snack break takes you on strange little tangents. Like you'll be eating a cookie and suddenly you start wondering, who invented cookies? And did they eat the first cookie? Or did they just stare at it? And if the cookie was really good, did they take a nap afterward? Before you know it, you're not even thinking about cookies anymore. You're just floating, following the soft little trail of crumbs inside your imagination. And that trail, it doesn't lead anywhere. It just drifts in circles gently forever. That's the beauty of the snack break that goes nowhere. It's not about finishing your food. It's about letting the food guide you into a softer, sillier state of being. It's about leaning back, chewing slowly, and realizing that even if you accomplish absolutely nothing, you still accomplished the most important thing. You rested. Now let's talk about the snacks you never eat, but you always think about. I call these dream snacks. They're the ones that live in your head like little food-shaped clouds. You never actually make them, but you always imagine how good they would be. For example, I've always dreamed of a sandwich made of nothing but air, 2 slices of bread, with nothing in between. Just bread, hugging bread. That's a dream snack. Because it doesn't fill you up, it just fills your imagination. Or how about a milkshake that tastes like the sound of waves crashing at night? Cool, foamy, and a little salty. That's another dream snack. It doesn't exist. But when you think about it, it kind of does. And sometimes, the thinking is tastier than the eating. SpongeBob once asked me, Patrick, why don't you just eat a real snack instead of pretending? And I told him, because dream snacks never run out. Real snacks disappear after a few bites. But a dream snack? You can stretch that flavor in your brain for hours, maybe even days if you're good at it. The snack break isn't about filling your stomach. It's about giving your thoughts something soft to chew on. Now here's another thing I like to do during a snack break. I call it the long pause before the bite. You hold the snack in your hand. Let's say it's a cookie. You stare at it. You admire it. You imagine how it might taste. And then you don't eat it. Not yet. You let the moment stretch out like a rubber band. Sometimes I'll sit there holding a cookie for so long, I forget what I was doing. Then later I'll look down and go, oh hey, free cookie. It's like giving yourself a gift. And all you had to do was nothing. Another thing I've discovered is the art of snack arranging. You don't even need to eat them, you just move them around. Line up crackers in a row. Stack cookies into a tower. Place peanuts in a perfect little circle. It's not eating. It's building. And then when you get bored of building, you can always eat the snack after. Or not. Sometimes I just stare at my snack towers until they topple over, and then I take a nap. That's what I call snack architecture. And then there's the great mystery of the unfinished snack. You know the one, you start eating something, but then you forget about it. Like maybe you take one bite of a sandwich and then you wander off. Hours later, you come back and see it sitting there, waiting patiently. It's kind of funny, like the snack was taking a break too. And when you look at it, you have to decide. Do I finish it? Do I leave it? Or do I just stare at it? All three are correct answers. Because the snack break was never about finishing, it was about pausing. Sometimes I think about the slowest snack of all, soup. Have you ever noticed how soup forces you to slow down? You can't crunch it, you can't gulp it too fast, or you'll burn your tongue. Soup is the master of lazy snacks. Every spoonful is like a little nap for your mouth. Warm, gentle, pointless. And when the bowl is finally empty, it feels like time itself just melted away. Another snack that goes nowhere. Jelly. Try putting a spoon into jelly. It just wobbles. It wiggles, it shivers, but it doesn't really do anything. Just like a good snack break. Sometimes I spend more time watching jelly jiggle than actually eating it. And honestly, that's the best part. It's like snack entertainment. And don't get me started on popcorn. Popcorn is the ultimate forever snack. Because no matter how many handfuls you eat, there are always more kernels hiding in the bowl. It never ends. It's like chasing stars in the night sky. You can never catch them all. But that's fine, because the fun is in the trying. Popcorn makes snack breaks feel endless, which is exactly the point. The truth is, the snack break is less about food and more about rhythm. It's about slowing down, dragging out every moment, stretching one bite into a whole journey. Even if you never take that bite at all. Because in the world of doing absolutely nothing, the snack is just another excuse to keep resting. Choose slowly, pause often, and always, always let yourself wander. Because in the end, the best snack breaks aren't measured in bites. They're measured in size. You know what the strangest thing is? Sometimes the snack isn't even real. It's all in your head. Like I'll be lying there under my rock, and I'll imagine I'm eating a giant marshmallow. It's soft, gooey, and it melts into sweet clouds on my tongue. But when I open my eyes, there's nothing there. Just me lying down. And that's okay, because the snack break isn't about having snacks. It's about the idea of them. One time I dreamed about a pizza so big, it covered the whole ocean floor. The pepperoni were islands and the cheese was bubbling lava. I took one bite and felt full for 1,000 years. That's the kind of snack you never forget, even though it never existed. The snack break lets you live in those little daydreams. Snacks that go nowhere, but somehow take you everywhere at the same time. I like to think of these as imaginary leftovers. You don't store them in the fridge. You store them in your brain. And the best part? They never spoil. You can pull them out any time, reheat them in your thoughts, and enjoy them all over again. No dishes, no crumbs, no cleanup. Now let's talk about snack science. That's when you're holding a snack but not eating it and everything gets quiet. The room hums softly. The lights feel dimmer and the world slows down. It's like the snack is a pause button for life. Sometimes I sit with a bag of chips in my lap, never opening it, just enjoying the silence it creates. Like the snack itself is saying, "Shh, let's not do anything just yet." And I listen. There's also something magical about half-eaten snacks. A lollipop you left on the counter. A donut with one bite missing. A popsicle that melted halfway before you remembered it. They're little reminders that not everything needs to be finished. The snack break doesn't require endings. It just needs pauses. Sometimes the pause is the whole point. Now here's something only true snack professionals know. The double snack nap. That's when you grab a snack, start eating it, and then halfway through, you fall asleep. When you wake up, the snack is still there, waiting. It's like time froze just for you. The unfinished snack is patient. It says, "Don't worry, I'll be here when you're ready." That's real snack friendship. Another secret technique is what I call snack listening. You don't eat the snack. You just listen to it. Crackers rustling in their wrapper. Soda fizzing in the glass. Popcorn kernels popping faintly in the distance. It's like the snacks are whispering bedtime stories just for you. And if you listen closely, you realize that snacks have their own kind of music. A gentle, crunchy lullaby. And then, of course, there's the ultimate snack mystery. The missing snack. You know you had a cookie. You remember holding it. But now, it's gone. Was it eaten? Did it roll away? Did you dream the whole thing? The missing snack is the universe's way of reminding you that snacks and snack breaks are never meant to be solved. They're meant to be felt, like a soft blur in your memory. Sometimes I wonder if the ocean itself is one giant snack break. All those waves, swaying back and forth, never hurrying, never finishing, just flowing forever. Maybe the sea is just chewing on time. And we, down here in Bikini Bottom, are tiny crumbs floating in the soup of the universe. That's a pretty big thought for a snack break. But big thoughts are just oversized snacks, really. And just like snacks, you don't have to finish them. You just nibble a little and let them drift away. In the end, the snack break doesn't need to lead anywhere. It doesn't have to feed you or satisfy you or even make sense. It just has to exist. A quiet pause. A bite or not. A sigh or a wobble of jelly. It's not about hunger. It's about slowing the world until it feels like it's not moving at all. So if you ever find yourself reaching for a snack, don't rush. Hold it. Stare at it. Forget about it. Maybe eat it. Maybe don't. Because in Patrick's Guide to Doing Absolutely Nothing, the snack break is proof that sometimes the best meals are the ones that never end. And that's why a true snack break always goes nowhere. Nowhere at all. And that's exactly where it's supposed to go. You ever notice how sometimes you're not asleep, but you're also not really awake. That fuzzy, floaty place where your eyes are half closed, your body feels heavy, but your brain is kind of just eating pudding. Yeah, that's what I call napping without napping. It's not the same as taking an actual nap. A nap requires a little bit of commitment. You know, lying down, getting cozy, maybe even pulling a blanket over your head. But napping without napping is much simpler. You don't need to prepare. You don't even need to lie down. You just stop. You pause. You drift without really going anywhere. For example, I'll be sitting under my rock, staring at a corner where nothing is happening. And suddenly, I'm not thinking. Not about food, not about chores, not about anything. It's like my brain put up a back in 5 minutes sign and walked away. My eyes droop, my mouth hangs open, and I just float there in the quiet. That's a nap, without actually napping. The best part? There's no beginning and no end. You don't have to say, okay, now I'm going to nap, and you don't have to wake up when it's over. Because it's never really over. It's like a gentle fog that rolls in, stays for a while, and then drifts away when it's ready. And you just let it happen. Now, there are all kinds of ways to nap without napping. One of my favorites is what I call the heavy blink. You know, when your eyelids get so droopy, you close them for just a second. But that second stretches into forever. And when you open your eyes again, you're not sure if it's been a moment or a century. That's a heavy blink nap. It's short, sweet, and kind of confusing, but oh, so relaxing. Another method is the staring drift. That's when you pick something to look at, like a rock or a jellyfish floating lazily by, and you let your eyes rest on it. Not focusing, not thinking, just letting your vision get fuzzy around the edges. After a while, you're not really looking at the thing anymore. You're just sort of inside the staring. It's like a nap for your eyeballs. There's also the shoulder slump. You sit somewhere comfy, let your shoulders fall down as low as they'll go, and let your head tilt a little to the side. Not enough to actually fall asleep, just enough so your body sighs. You might even drool a little. Drooling, by the way, is optional, but highly recommended. That's a nap without a nap. And let's not forget the half-thought nap. This one's my personal favorite. You start thinking about something like, maybe I'll go get a snack later, and then halfway through the thought, you forget the rest. The thought doesn't finish. It just drifts away like a balloon. Suddenly, you're not thinking about anything at all. And you're not asleep either. You're just floating in the space between thoughts. That's the sweet spot. The gentle art of napping without napping is like balancing on the edge of a seashell. You don't fall into deep sleep. You don't climb back into full wakefulness. You just sit there, perfectly still, perfectly calm, perfectly in between. And in that in-between space, time feels like it's taking a nap too. The funny thing is, sometimes you come out of it feeling rested, like you just woke up from an hour-long snooze. Other times you come out of it feeling exactly the same as before. And that's okay. Because the goal isn't to change how you feel. The goal is just to be there, to let yourself enjoy that weightless drift. I think of it like floating on a jellyfish. Not riding it anywhere, not trying to hold on too tight, just gently bobbing with the ocean current. Eyes half closed, mind half dreaming. That's what makes napping without napping so special. It's not about going somewhere. It's about not going anywhere at all. Now, if you're wondering when the best time to nap without napping is, the answer is all the time. Morning? Perfect. Afternoon? Even better. Evening? Why not? Middle of the night? Sure. Though at that point, you might accidentally turn it into an actual nap. But hey, accidents happen. There's really no wrong time. Because unlike real naps, napping without napping doesn't require scheduling. You don't set an alarm. You don't say, I'll just close my eyes for 20 minutes. You don't even admit you're doing it. It just sneaks up on you like a sea breeze and wraps you in its soft, sleepy arms. The truth is, napping without napping is less of an activity and more of a mood. It's like being underwater without swimming. It's like eating without chewing. It's like SpongeBob trying to sit still. It just happens in its own silly, wobbly way. Some of the best napping without napping moments happen when you're supposed to be doing something else, like waiting for a Krabby Patty order, or pretending to listen to Squidward talk about clarinet reeds, or sitting at Jellyfish Fields with your net, thinking about catching jellyfish but never actually moving. That's when the drift sneaks in. You're not asleep. You're not active. You're just sort of paused. And in that pause, you find a cozy little hammock for your brain. Here's a trick I discovered. If you want to nap without napping on purpose, try listening to something boring. Not bad boring, but comfortably boring. Like the hum of a refrigerator. Or the way Squidward's voice drones on and on when he's reading a book about ancient clarinet history. Or the bubbles from SpongeBob's sink when he leaves the water running too long. Those sounds aren't exciting. But that's the point. They lull you into that perfect not asleep, not awake zone. You can also use what I call the fake nap technique. That's when you lie down like you're going to nap. You close your eyes. You let your arms and legs go floppy. But instead of actually falling asleep, you hover right on the edge. If you do it right, you'll get all the coziness of napping without the trouble of waking up later and wondering what year it is. And then there's my personal favorite, the hammock wobble. You don't even need a hammock for it. You just imagine you're lying in one, gently swaying back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The sway never gets too high, never too low. It just keeps rocking you into that gentle blur between sleeping and waking. Sometimes I do it on my rock. Sometimes I do it sitting on the sand. And sometimes I do it standing up, which usually ends with me falling over. But hey, that's part of the fun. The key thing about napping without napping is that there's no pressure. Unlike real naps, you don't wake up and check the time or feel guilty for sleeping too long. You don't even call it a nap. It's just nothing. And nothing, my friend, is very relaxing. People always ask me, Patrick, how do you know when you're done napping without napping? And I always say, when you stop doing it. That's it. There's no timer and no buzzer. No Squidward banging on your rock to wake you up. You just naturally slide back into wakefulness when your brain feels like it. It could be 2 minutes or it could be 2 hours. Time doesn't really matter. That's what makes it so magical. You're not counting. You're not measuring. You're not even thinking about it. You're just floating in the soft, blurry in-between, like a jellyfish in the tide, or a bubble drifting up to the surface. No hurry, no destination, just quiet, peaceful drifting. And if you're lucky, sometimes napping without napping turns into something even better, daydreaming. That's when little pictures start sliding into your head. Maybe you imagine a giant ice cream cone floating by. Or SpongeBob winning a jellyfishing trophy made of jelly. Or Squidward finally playing one perfect clarinet note that makes the whole ocean cheer. Daydreams are like tiny naps your brain takes while still keeping the lights on. They don't make sense. They don't have to. They're just there. And you smile at them because they're soft and silly and sweet. So whether you call it a heavy blink, a shoulder slump, a fake nap, or just plain zoning out, remember this. Napping without napping is less about sleeping and more about letting go. You let go of thoughts. You let go of effort. You let go of the idea that you need to do anything at all. And in that letting go, you find the softest, laziest, coziest kind of peace. Now let's talk about positions. Because if you're going to master the art of not quite napping, you need the right pose. Some people think you can only do it lying down. But that's a rookie mistake. The truth is, you can nap without napping in almost any position. For example, there's the classic recline. That's when you lean back just enough to feel cozy, but not so far that you slide into full-on sleep. Like lying on your rock, but keeping one eye half open just in case SpongeBob shows up with a new idea involving jellyfish. Then there's the seated slouch. This one's great for when you're outside pretending to watch the waves. You sit, let your shoulders drop, and allow your spine to forget it's supposed to be doing anything. The trick is to keep your head wobbling slightly, like a jellyfish bobbing in the tide. Not asleep, not awake, just floppy. Another classic. The starfish sprawl. Lie flat on the sand with arms and legs spread out in all directions. Don't move. Don't think. Don't even breathe too hard or the sand might notice you. In this position, you become part of the beach itself, a gentle, lazy rock who sometimes sighs. And for advanced practitioners, there's the upright doze. That's when you nap without napping while standing up. It's risky. You'll wobble. You'll sway. You might even topple over into a bucket. But the drifting feeling right before you tip? Oh, that's prime not quite nap territory. Now, what should you do with your hands? Good question. The answer is absolutely nothing. Let them flop wherever they want. Maybe one rests on your belly, rising and falling like a sleepy tide. Maybe the other dangles off the side of your chair, brushing against the floor. Hands don't need jobs here. They're off duty. And your breathing. Oh, your breathing is the most important part. Slow, soft. Like bubbles sneaking out of a clam. You're not snoring, you're not sighing. You're just letting the air drift in and out. Each breath is like a tiny wave. In, out, in, out. No rush, no force. Just a gentle tide washing through you. The beauty of napping without napping is that it requires zero equipment. You don't need a bed. You don't need a blanket. You don't even need a pillow, though a rock shaped like one is nice. All you really need is a willingness to not try, because trying ruins it. The moment you say, okay, brain, let's nap without napping now, poof, the magic disappears. It's like chasing jellyfish. The harder you run, the farther they float away. But if you sit still, eventually, one just drifts into your net. That's how not naps work. You don't chase them. You let them find you. Sometimes, though, you'll get interrupted. Maybe SpongeBob bounces in shouting about a bubble contest. Or Squidward stomps past muttering about noise. Or your stomach grumbles so loudly it wakes itself up. That's okay. Because the nice thing about napping without napping is that it's always waiting for you. You can pause it. You can leave it. And you can slip right back into it whenever you want. It's the most patient activity in the world. In fact, I think the ocean itself is always napping without napping. The waves never sleep, but they're never fully awake either. They just roll and roll, gently, forever. Sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, but always steady. When you let yourself drift like that, you're basically becoming a wave. And what's cozier than being a wave? And if you're wondering whether other creatures do this too, the answer is absolutely. I once watched a jellyfish hover in place for an entire afternoon. Did it nap? No. Did it move? Also no. It just existed. And you could see in its little wobbles that it was perfectly content. That's what napping without napping looks like in the wild. Even snails do it. Gary will sometimes sit in his bowl for hours, blinking slowly. He's not sleeping. He's not eating. He's just vibing. That's the snail version of not napping. And honestly, he's master at it. Oh, so if you're ever unsure whether you're doing it right, just think of a jellyfish or a snail. If they can float and blink and exist without pressure, then so can you. Remember, the goal isn't to fall asleep. The goal isn't even to rest exactly. The goal is simply to let yourself be. And sometimes, being is enough. Now let's talk about the sounds of not quite napping. Because sometimes it's not about silence. It's about having just the right background noise to melt into. Some people need total quiet, like the hush of a clamshell snapping shut. Others, like me, prefer a little bit of noise. Maybe the faint slosh of the tide. Maybe the sound of SpongeBob giggling in the distance. Or even the gentle hum of a refrigerator keeping snacks nice and cold. The important thing is, it has to be a sound you don't need to pay attention to. A sound that just drifts by like a bubble floating past. If you notice it too much, you'll wake up. But if it's soft enough, your brain will wrap itself around it like a pillow. Then there are the thoughts. Now thoughts can be tricky. If you think too hard, you'll ruin the whole thing. But if you don't think at all, you'll just be, well, bored. The secret is to think just enough, but about absolutely nothing important. For example, I once spent 3 hours wondering, if a Krabby Patty floated into the sky, would it keep going forever? Or would it eventually get soggy and sink? That's the perfect kind of not-nap thought. It doesn't matter. There's no answer. But it keeps your mind gently bobbing along like a sea cucumber on a lazy current. Another one I like is, what if clouds were actually giant marshmallows, and every time it rained, it was just marshmallow juice? Again, nonsense. But that's the point. Not-nap thoughts should be as soft and silly as a pillow made of jelly. Some people even use counting. Not sheep, though. That's too much work. Sheep jump fences? That's exercise. Way too active. Instead, I like to count bubbles. 1 bubble. 2 bubbles. 3 bubbles. Oh, look, 1 popped. Back to 1 bubble. It never goes anywhere. And that's exactly the idea. Now let's cover the duration. How long should a not nap last? Well, as long as it needs to. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 5 hours. There's no timer, no buzzer, no clock. If you find yourself waking up and realizing you didn't sleep, congratulations, you just had the perfect not nap. It's also worth mentioning the afterglow. That moment right after a not nap where you open your eyes and realize time has passed, but you didn't really go anywhere. You feel floaty, gentle, like a sponge that's been sitting in warm water. That's the magic. You don't feel groggy. You don't feel rushed. You just feel like you've been carried by the tide, even though you never left your spot. And here's the best part. You can share it. Not napping doesn't have to be a solo activity. You can do it with friends. Lie side by side with SpongeBob on the sand, staring up at the sky, not really talking, not really sleeping, just drifting together. It's like group floating. No rules, no competition. Just a shared space of gentle nothingness. Even Squidward sometimes joins without realizing it. He'll sit on his porch with his clarinet in his lap, eyes half closed, muttering about needing peace. And while he thinks he's brooding, he's really just not napping. The clarinet becomes a pillow, the breeze becomes his blanket, and he sinks into that same slow rhythm we all do. It's universal. So if you ever worry that you're doing it wrong, don't. There is no wrong way. If you're lying, sitting, standing, or even wobbling on one fin, you're doing it right. If your thoughts are silly, if your eyes feel heavy but not closed, if time seems fuzzy, yep, you're right there in the middle of it. The gentle art of napping without napping isn't something you learn once. It's something you return to again and again. Like drifting back to your favorite rock or your coziest chair. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're busy. It just waits for you quietly until you're ready to float again. And maybe, just maybe, that's the whole secret. Doing absolutely nothing can sometimes be the most restful thing of all. Not sleep, not work, not even play, just existing softly. So the next time you feel the world buzzing around you, remember this. You don't have to shut it out. You don't have to fight it. You can just drift, eyes half open, brain half on, body half still. You can let yourself nap without napping, float without sinking, rest without really sleeping. And in that space between, you'll find something even better than dreams. You'll find the art of pure, gentle nothing. You might think that adventures are supposed to be full of action. Treasure maps, stormy seas, giant jellyfish, and maybe even a dramatic soundtrack. But today, I, Patrick Starr, am here to tell you about a very different kind of adventure. An adventure that takes you absolutely nowhere. It's called, The Big Empty Adventure. Now, you might be wondering, Patrick, how can an adventure be empty? Doesn't that mean there's nothing happening? Exactly. That's the beauty of it. This is an adventure where every step leads to nowhere, and that's the fun part. Let's begin. First, you need a starting point. Maybe it's your couch. Maybe it's a patch of sand. Maybe it's the very same spot you've been lying in all day. That's perfect. That's your launch pad into the void of absolutely nothing. Step one of the big empty adventure. Announce it to yourself. Say it proudly. I'm going on an adventure. Even if you're just moving from one side of your bed to the other. The more dramatic, the better. Because half the fun of doing nothing is pretending it's something. So puff out your chest, raise your arms like you're about to climb a mountain, and then flop back down. Congratulations, you just started. Now, every adventure needs a map. But in the big empty adventure, the map is blank. That's the whole point. There are no landmarks, no X marks the spot, no scary caves to get lost in. It's just you and a big, wide, cozy nothing. Maybe your map is just a piece of paper with a single dot on it. That dot is you. Everything else is empty. And somehow, That makes it the most exciting map of all. So what's the first destination on this blank map? Well, it could be the ceiling. Yes, that ordinary ceiling above you is now the great white sky. Look at it carefully. See that tiny crack? That's a mountain range. That faint shadow in the corner? That's a mysterious cave. Suddenly, the ceiling isn't just a ceiling, it's a whole new frontier. And you didn't even have to get up. Step 2 of the big empty adventure. Use your imagination, but keep it lazy. Don't overthink it. If you start sweating, you're doing too much. Just let the thoughts float by. If the wall becomes a desert, great. If your pillow turns into a fluffy cloud, perfect. If your blanket is now a cape and you're a mighty explorer lying completely still, that's the magic. You've turned nothing into something and you didn't even move an inch. Of course, like all great adventures, there will be challenges. Maybe your stomach rumbles. That's the growling cave monster. Maybe a fly buzzes by. That's the tiny flying dragon. Or maybe SpongeBob calls your name from outside. That's the mysterious voice of the beyond. The trick is, you don't fight these challenges, you let them pass. If your stomach growls, give it a pat and say, "Thank you, cave monster." If the fly zooms by, wave at the dragon and watch it disappear. And if SpongeBob calls, just mumble, "I'm on an adventure," and roll to the other side. Crisis averted. Now let's talk about the pace. Most adventures are rushed. Heroes sprint from place to place. But in the big empty adventure, you go slower than slow. Slower than a jellyfish drifting on a windless day. Slower than a snail who forgot it was supposed to be moving. In fact, the slower you go, the more adventurous it feels. Because every tiny shift, every lazy blink, feels like a grand discovery. And then there's the treasure. Every adventure has treasure, right? Gold, jewels, magical objects. But on this adventure, the treasure is nothing. You're not searching for riches. You're searching for the joy of being exactly where you already are. Imagine digging and digging, only to find a chest filled with air. And instead of being disappointed, you smile because that's exactly what you wanted. That's the big empty adventure, finding everything in nothing. By now, you might be thinking, but Patrick, how do I know if I'm doing this adventure correctly? Here's the answer. If you feel like you've done absolutely nothing, you've done it perfectly. If time feels fuzzy, like you're not sure if it's been 2 minutes or 2 hours, you're right on track. And if you start to smile for no reason, then congratulations, you found the treasure. So remember, the big empty adventure isn't about going far. It's about realizing that not going anywhere can be the greatest journey of all. Now that you've started your big empty adventure, it's time to talk about journeys without moving. Most adventurers need boats or carriages or giant seahorses to get where they're going. But not you. You've discovered the secret shortcut, staying exactly where you are. Here's how it works. Pick a spot in the room, maybe a corner, a lamp, or a funny-looking sock, and declare it your destination. Whisper to yourself, "That's where I'm going." Then, don't go there. Stay perfectly still. Pretend you're making progress, even if you've barely wiggled a finger. After a few minutes, look at your chosen spot again. Ta-da! You've arrived. Your adventure is a success, and you never even had to lift your head. This is called imaginary traveling. It's one of the most powerful tools in the big empty adventure. For example, your ceiling fan? That's the Wheel of Fortune, spinning at the center of a forgotten galaxy. Your nightstand? That's the cliff of eternal balance, holding up mighty objects like glasses of water. Your blanket? That's the endless rolling dunes of comfort, a desert where you don't even need to walk. See how magical this is? You've turned ordinary objects into legendary destinations just by thinking slowly and quietly. And the best part is, none of them require tickets, maps, or heavy backpacks. Now let's talk about companions. Most heroes have a team, wise wizards, brave knights, or loyal sidekicks. But in the big, empty adventure, your companions are pillows. Yes, pillows. The fluffier, the braver. Some pillows may be strong shields keeping you safe from chilly breezes. Others may be quiet guides, softly whispering, "Turn me over. I have a cooler side." Every pillow has a role to play in this journey, and every role is important. Even your stuffed animals, or if you don't have stuffed animals, maybe a sock with a face drawn on it, can join your party. A hero is only as strong as the imagination behind them. So, if you have a stuffed bear, that's your guardian of the northern caves. If you have a squid-shaped plush, that's your keeper of the watery realms. And if you just have an empty spot on the bed, guess what? That's your invisible wise mentor. Don't worry, they're very wise, even though you can't see them. Next, we have the concept of obstacles. Every adventure needs them, even an empty one. But remember, our obstacles aren't scary or dangerous. They're gentle and silly. For example, the blanket slips off your foot. That's the creeping cold fog. You drop a crumb on your shirt. That's the attack of the tiny falling boulder. You sigh loudly. That's the roar of the echoing canyon. You don't have to defeat these obstacles. You just acknowledge them, give them a silly name, and let them pass. In fact, the more you exaggerate, the better. The smaller the problem, the grander the obstacle. That's what makes the big empty adventure such a lazy kind of fun. Now, sometimes on an adventure, you'll lose track of time. On a real quest, that might be scary. But here, it's wonderful. If you close your eyes for a few seconds and open them again, you might discover it's been an hour. That means you've traveled through the valley of time fog, a mystical land where clocks simply don't matter. The only schedule in this adventure is your own heartbeat, and that's as slow and steady as you'd like it to be. And then there's silence. Most adventures are loud, clashing swords, roaring monsters, dramatic music. But the big, empty adventure is quiet. You might hear only the soft hum of the world around you. Maybe the distant sound of water. Maybe the faint tick of a clock. Or maybe nothing at all. That's silence. That's your soundtrack. It's the sound of the great void you're exploring. And the more you listen, the more peaceful it becomes. Now, what about victory? What counts as winning this adventure? Well, it's simple. If you've managed to stay cozy, if you've drifted into silly thoughts, if you've smiled at the idea of your blanket being a desert, you've already won. Victory isn't at the end. Victory is the whole time. Because the goal of the big empty adventure is not to find something, it's to enjoy the nothing. And here's the secret. This adventure never ends. You can stop whenever you want, or keep going forever. Because the empty world is always waiting for you, right here, in the comfort of wherever you are. You don't need to pack. You don't need to prepare. You don't even need to open your eyes. The big empty adventure is always ready. Now that you've learned about imaginary traveling, companions, and obstacles, It's time to talk about one of the most mysterious parts of the big, empty adventure, the landscapes of the mind. You see, in most adventures, landscapes are outside. Mountains, rivers, forests, caves. But in this special journey, the landscapes appear inside your head. They aren't made of dirt or stone. They're built from daydreams, half-thoughts, and soft little what-ifs that drift across your mind like bubbles. For example, let's imagine a place called the endless meadow of blankness. It's not green or filled with flowers. It's just a wide, open stretch where nothing grows, and yet it feels perfectly safe. The ground is soft like memory foam. The air smells faintly like warm pancakes, though there are no pancakes anywhere in sight. You can lie down in the middle of this meadow and watch the sky, which is neither blue nor gray, but a color you can't quite describe. That's the charm of it. Or maybe you stumble into the tunnel of almost sleep. It's a long hallway stretching on forever with walls that hum very quietly, like someone snoring in another room. Every step you take feels slower than the last, and the air is warm, like a blanket, just pulled out of the dryer. You never reach the end of the tunnel, and that's the point. It's a hallway designed to go nowhere, so you can keep walking without worry. And then there's the mountain of nothing to do. This mountain isn't tall. In fact, you can climb it while lying down. Each step is just another little breath you take. By the time you've taken 10 or 11 breaths, you're already at the top. From there, you can look out over your entire imaginary world. The meadows, the tunnels, the deserts of blankets, the oceans of ceiling stare. It's not exciting. It's not dramatic. But it's peaceful. And peace is the treasure you've been looking for all along. Now, sometimes during the big, empty adventure, you'll notice wandering thoughts sneaking in. Maybe you suddenly remember that one time you dropped your ice cream on the sidewalk. Or maybe you start planning what you'll eat tomorrow. Or maybe a tiny voice in your head says, "Wait, shouldn't I be doing something?" That's okay. Those wandering thoughts are just little trickster clouds. They float through your sky, but they never stay. You can wave to them, say hello, and let them drift away. After all, the big empty adventure doesn't need a perfect mind. It welcomes every silly random thought that wanders in. Because even distractions are part of the landscape. Another important part of the adventure is time bending. On a normal quest, you measure progress by hours, miles, or battles. But here, time stretches and squishes in strange ways. 5 minutes might feel like 50. Or 50 minutes might vanish like 5. That's the magic of doing absolutely nothing. Your brain gets so relaxed, it forgets about clocks. In fact, when you're in the big and empty adventure, you could be anywhere in time. Maybe it's today. Maybe it's yesterday. Maybe it's a dream version of tomorrow where pineapples rain from the sky. It doesn't matter because time is as soft as the pillows you're lying on. Now let's talk about treasures. What do you find in this grand adventure? In a regular story, you'd dig up gold or jewels or magic relics. But here the treasures are much simpler and much sillier. Finding the cooler side of your pillow, that's the crystal of refreshing chill. Hearing your tummy make a funny noise, that's the echoing drum of the belly caves. Accidentally closing your eyes for a second too long, that's the amulet of almost nap. The point is, in this adventure, treasures aren't things you can hold. They're little moments that make you smile. They're reminders that even nothing can feel like something. And then there are the secret quests. Sometimes, without even planning, you'll create a tiny mission for yourself. Like, I'm going to see how long I can stare at the ceiling without blinking. Or, I'm going to balance this crumb on my chest until it falls. Or, I'm going to imagine what my room would look like upside down. These aren't serious quests. They don't have winners or losers. They just exist to pass the time in a silly, sleepy way. And often, you'll forget about them halfway through, which is the best outcome of all. Finally, let's talk about the horizon. Every adventure has one. In most stories, the horizon is where the hero must go, the edge of the map, the unknown lands beyond. But in the big, empty adventure, the horizon isn't out there. It's inside you. It's the edge of your imagination. When you reach it, you'll find yourself drifting into another world entirely, the world of dreams. And once you cross into that world, the big, empty adventure continues in a whole new way, one you don't even need to stay awake for. So here we are, nearing the quietest part of the big, empty adventure. You've wandered through meadows of blankness, climbed the mountain of nothing to do, collected treasures that aren't treasures, and even greeted the trickster clouds of distraction. Now it's time for the softest step of all, realizing that this journey was never about where you were going. It was always about the calm you discovered while doing absolutely nothing. Patrick, our wise but very silly guide, might put it like this. Sometimes the best adventure is the one where you don't move an inch, don't win a prize, and don't even remember what you were supposed to be doing. And that's the heart of it. The big, empty adventure doesn't give you fireworks. It gives you stillness. It gives you a cozy pause in the middle of a noisy day. It gives you permission to sit, breathe, and forget about everything except the comfort of being right where you are. Now, as with every grand story, there's usually an ending. But the wonderful thing about the big, empty adventure is that it doesn't really end. It sort of fades, like a seashell slowly sinking into the sand, or a bubble floating away until you can't see it anymore. The adventure melts gently into rest. But before it drifts away completely, let's look at a few final places on this imaginary map. Because sometimes the most relaxing parts are found at the edges. The pillow plains, an endless stretch of gentle hills shaped like giant pillows. You don't walk here. You flop from one hill to the next, bouncing softly until you forget which pillow is yours and which one is the landscape. The river of half-thoughts, a slow winding stream where ideas flow in and out like fish. They never stay long enough to catch. You watch them swim by and think, oh, that's interesting, before they drift away forever. The forest of slow blinks, a quiet grove where every tree looks like it's leaning, as though the entire forest is about to take a nap. The leaves whisper softly, and each blink you take feels longer and heavier than the last. Visiting these places doesn't require effort. You don't need to pack supplies or follow directions. All you need to do is let your thoughts wander slowly until they land in one of these landscapes. Now, you might wonder, Patrick, what's the point of this adventure if nothing actually happens? And Patrick would probably shrug, scratch his belly, and say, exactly. Because not every journey needs a destination. Sometimes the value is in the drifting itself, the act of giving your brain and body a little space to rest without expecting anything in return. This is where the big, empty adventure differs from all the other quests you've ever heard about. Most adventures are about heroes proving themselves. This one is about you not needing to prove anything at all. It's about being fine just the way you are. whether you're lying flat on the floor, staring at the ceiling, or imagining a pancake-scented meadow. You don't need to fight, or build, or solve, or conquer. You just exist. And existing is enough. Patrick, in his famously wise but silly way, might finish the lesson like this. If doing nothing feels good, then that's the adventure. You already won. You don't even need a trophy unless it's a trophy made of jellyfish jam. But even then, you probably don't need it. The truth is, the big empty adventure isn't measured in miles or minutes. It's measured in breaths. Each inhale and exhale is a step further along the path. And every step makes the world around you just a little quieter, a little slower, a little softer. And if along the way you close your eyes, maybe just to rest them for a second, that's okay too. Because the big empty adventure loves naps. In fact, it was probably invented by naps. And the best part? If you drift off mid-adventure, the story doesn't stop. It simply continues inside your dreams, weaving itself into whatever soft, silly images float through your sleeping mind. So whether you're awake, half awake, or already slipping into dreamland, remember this. The big empty adventure is always waiting. You don't have to prepare. You don't have to pack. You don't even have to start. All you have to do is be here. And that's the whole adventure. Nothing grand. Nothing loud. Just the quiet joy of doing absolutely nothing at all. There's something funny about the word nothing. It sounds so small, doesn't it? Just a simple word like an empty bubble. But if you sit with it long enough, if you stare at it, roll it around in your head, and let it sink into the soft quiet around you, you start to realize that nothing is actually huge. It's not a tiny thing. It's everything without the busy stuff attached. Patrick, our very drowsy philosopher, might explain it like this. Nothing is, when you're doing nothing, but also when you're being nothing, but not in a bad way, in a good way, like being a soft pillow, a happy, sleepy pillow. And that's the spirit of this last part of our journey together, learning how to become one with nothing. It sounds strange, doesn't it? But it's really the simplest thing in the world. You don't have to practice or train or study. You don't even need a plan. Because becoming one with nothing is really about letting go. Think of it like floating in water. If you thrash and kick and try too hard, you sink. But if you relax and trust the water to hold you, you float. The same goes for nothing. The more you try to make nothing happen, the less it works. But the moment you soften, the moment you sigh, the moment you decide you don't need to do anything at all, that's when you're carried by the gentle tide of nothingness. Now, this doesn't mean you disappear. Far from it. It means you melt into the cozy background of the universe, like a cloud blending into the sky or a seashell hiding under the sand. You're still here. You're still you. But the edges blur a little, and the weight of being you becomes lighter, softer, easier. Patrick, lying flat on a rock at the bottom of the ocean, might close his eyes and say, "See? I'm not Patrick right now. I'm just a starfish-shaped piece of the ocean. And that feels pretty good." That's the secret. You don't have to stop being yourself. You just let yourself rest inside the bigger picture. You're part of the chair you're sitting on. You're part of the floor beneath your feet. You're part of the air that drifts gently in and out of your lungs. And once you feel that, really feel it, the idea of nothing stops being scary or empty. It becomes safe, warm, comforting. Imagine lying on a soft bed of seagrass. The water around you is still, the light is dim, and nothing is moving except the faint ripple of bubbles rising toward the surface. You're not doing anything. You're not planning anything. You're not even thinking much. And in that stillness, you realize that nothing is just another word for peace. Now, some people think nothingness sounds boring. But Patrick would strongly disagree. He'd say, boring? No way. Nothing is everything. It's like the biggest, softest blanket you could ever imagine. And if you've ever curled up under a blanket that's just the right weight, just the right temperature, you know exactly what he means. That kind of quiet comfort doesn't feel boring. It feels like the universe giving you a hug. Becoming one with nothing isn't about forgetting who you are. It's about remembering that you don't always have to do something to matter. You can sit still and matter. You can breathe slowly and matter. You can even drift off to sleep and still matter. Because your worth isn't measured by noise or motion. It's measured by the soft, steady presence you carry even in silence. So what's the first step to becoming one with nothing? Ironically, it's not a step at all. It's a pause. The kind of pause where you let your shoulders sink, where you stop trying to hold your breath and instead just let it drift naturally in and out, like the tide. The kind of pause where your thoughts aren't forced to go anywhere. They can just swirl lazily, like seaweed dancing in a gentle current. That pause is the doorway. Step through it and you'll see that nothingness isn't a blank wall. It's more like a wide open sky or an ocean that stretches on forever. It's space to rest, space to float, space to simply be. And here's the best part. You've already done it before. Every time you stare at the ceiling without thinking, every time you let your eyes glaze over while watching the waves, every time you lose track of time because you were too busy being comfortable. That's you becoming one with nothing, without even realizing it. So tonight, as you listen, you're already practicing. You're breathing slower. You're letting your body get heavier. You're noticing the way the silence between my words feels just as important as the words themselves. And in those tiny gaps, in those gentle silences, you're already touching the edges of nothing. And if you keep following those silences, they'll lead you right to the heart of it, where you don't need to try or push or hold on, where you can let go and let nothing hold you instead. Patrick's favorite way to explain nothingness is with food, of course. He might say, becoming one with nothing is like when you eat a donut. The donut is good, but the hole in the middle, that's nothing. And yet, without the nothing, there wouldn't be a donut. It's funny, but he's right. Sometimes the empty part is the most important part of all. A chair is useful because of the space where you sit. A shell is useful because of the hollow inside where a little creature lives. And a quiet moment is useful because of the nothingness that makes it peaceful. So when you're learning to become one with nothing, you can think of yourself as the donut hole, the quiet center, the soft space in the middle of the world's busy noise. Oh, you're not missing anything. You're what makes everything around you feel complete. Now imagine Patrick stretched out under a rock, eyes half closed, arms and legs spread like a big pink star. He's not asleep, but he's not exactly awake either. He's in that wonderful in-between. That's the place where nothing feels most natural. And in that place, thoughts stop being sharp. They stop rushing. Instead, they turn into fluffy clouds that pass gently through your mind. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to grab onto them. You can just let them drift, and sooner or later, they'll dissolve all on their own. That's what becoming one with nothing is really about. Not clinging, not chasing. Just letting life float by while you stay soft and calm in the middle of it all. Patrick might sigh and say, "Sometimes I like to think of myself as a rock, but not a heavy, serious rock, a really comfortable rock, maybe even a sleepy rock. And then when I think that, I don't feel like Patrick anymore. I just feel like part of the ground. And that's the magic of nothingness. You blend. You blend into your bed. You blend into the air. You blend into the quiet hum of the night. And the more you blend, the less you have to worry about doing. You can just be. Now, here's a little secret trick. When you're trying to feel this nothingness, listen closely. Not to what's loud, but to what's soft. The sound of your breath. The creak of the room settling. The tiniest buzz of silence itself. That faint, almost invisible background hum is nothing whispering to you. And the more you notice it, the more it cradles you. Like water rocking a boat. Like the ocean rocking the starfish. Patrick would probably put it even more simply. If you listen long enough, even silence starts to sound funny, but funny in a cozy way, like a joke that makes you yawn. So here you are, lying down, maybe staring at the dark ceiling, maybe already drifting. And slowly, without you even realizing it, you're joining Patrick in his favorite place, the soft middle of nothing. Some people spend their whole lives chasing excitement, noise, and sparkle. But Patrick has stumbled onto a great truth. Sometimes the best adventure is not an adventure at all. It's the quiet pause, the empty bubble, the still water where everything feels calm. And when you melt into that stillness, something magical happens. Your body loosens, your breath deepens. Your mind unwinds like a rope untangling. And soon you feel less like you're lying on your bed and more like you're part of your bed. A piece of the pillow, a ripple in the blanket, a soft starfish shape floating in a sea of quiet. This is the doorway to becoming one with nothing, forgetting where you end and the world begins. Because the truth is, the world has been holding you all along. The bed holds your body. The air holds your breath. The silence holds your thoughts. And when you let yourself sink into that, you realize you were never separate from nothing. You were part of it the whole time. Patrick, in his blissful simplicity, sums it up like this. Sometimes I think I'm just a bubble. And bubbles don't worry about being bubbles. They just float. And then pop. And yet, in that bubble's short, quiet life, it was always surrounded by the great ocean of nothing. So maybe that's the secret. You don't try to become one with nothing. You just notice that you already are. And once you notice, the whole idea feels less like a mystery and more like a gentle truth. Like a warm blanket pulled up to your chin. And the more you rest in that truth, the easier it is to close your eyes, to sigh, to sink a little deeper, and to let go. Patrick often likes to imagine what it means to really be part of nothing. Maybe, he says, becoming one with nothing is like being a jellyfish. Jellyfish don't think about where they're going. They just drift wherever the water carries them. They don't even have bones. They're just soft. That's what I want to be. Soft and floaty and not worried about anything. And in a way, that's exactly what nothing feels like. It's the gentle floating. The letting go. The not needing to have a plan or even a direction. Just drifting where the quiet takes you. When you try this, you might notice how heavy your arms feel. how soft your body gets, how the blanket seems to hug you back. That's your own little jellyfish moment. You're not swimming. You're not pushing. You're just letting yourself be carried. Patrick would probably wiggle a little and say, "See, I'm drifting, except I'm on the floor, but it still counts." And the funny thing is, he's right. Even on the floor, even in bed, even sitting in a chair, you can feel the same kind of drifting if you let go enough. Because drifting isn't about water. It's about release. It's about not fighting, not forcing, not needing to do anything at all. Now, becoming one with nothing doesn't mean you stop existing. It's more like you become part of something much bigger. The quiet of the room, the stillness of the night, the softness of your own breath. All of it merges together until it's hard to tell where you end and the rest begins. Patrick might describe it like this. Sometimes I feel like I'm not Patrick anymore. I'm just the sound of snoring, a floating bubble, or maybe even just a little speck of pink fuzz in the air. And it feels really nice because then I don't have to remember where my rock is or what time it is or if I was supposed to do something. I can just be fuzz. And maybe that's the secret gift of nothing. It frees you. It frees you from needing to be busy. It frees you from needing to solve or plan. It frees you from the weight of should and must. Because in nothingness, there is no schedule, no pressure, no expectations, just softness. You could picture it like being wrapped in a giant sea sponge, the kind that's so big and soft that you melt right into it until you don't know where you are, only that you're safe and warm and held. And the longer you rest there, the more you realize that nothing isn't empty at all. It's actually very full of rest, full of peace, full of tiny, quiet details you only notice when everything else stops. Like the way your breath makes the blanket rise and fall. Like the way your eyelids feel heavy and warm. Like the way silence itself seems to hum, as if the world is whispering a lullaby. Patrick might put it another way. Nothing is like ice cream, but without the ice cream. It sounds empty, but actually, it's still sweet. You just can't see it. And in that silly, simple way, he's teaching something profound. Nothingness isn't a hole to fall into. It's a pillow to rest on. It's a soft ocean to float in. It's a bedtime story the world tells you without any words. So as you lie there, feeling heavier and softer and quieter, you can let yourself imagine you're drifting with Patrick. Both of you floating through a vast, starry sea. The stars don't twinkle loudly. They just glow faintly, like tiny nightlights spread across the sky. And the two of you aren't in a hurry. You don't need to get anywhere. You're just floating, just being, just part of the quiet. And slowly your body forgets its edges. Your thoughts fade into soft shapes. Even your breathing feels like the tide coming and going, rocking you gently. This is where you become one with nothing. Not by trying, not by forcing, but by melting into the quiet so deeply that the quiet becomes you. Patrick would probably snore at this point and then, half asleep, mumble something like, "I think I'm nothing now, and it feels pretty great." And you can smile at that because he's right. Doing nothing, being nothing. It's not scary, it's not boring. It's the most peaceful thing in the world. And as you rest here, you can feel yourself becoming lighter and heavier all at once. Heavier in your body, sinking down. Lighter in your mind, floating free. perfectly balanced, perfectly calm. This is what Patrick calls the cozy middle of nothing. And once you're there, you don't need to move. You don't need to think. You don't even need to listen anymore. You can just drift. Now we arrive at the quietest part of Patrick's guide, the moment where doing nothing isn't even something you notice anymore. It just happens. Patrick would describe it like this. At first, you're thinking, I'm doing nothing. But then after a while, you're not thinking anything at all. You're just there, like a starfish stuck to a rock. And the starfish doesn't wonder if it's doing it right. It just sticks, and that's enough. That's what becoming one with nothing feels like. The thoughts slow down, then stretch out, and finally dissolve into a kind of gentle fuzz. And in that fuzzy space, there's no need for words or plans or even jokes, just the soft hum of existence. Patrick might start drifting off in mid-thought and mumble. Nothing is wait, what was I saying? Oh, never mind. And then he'd fall silent. And that's exactly the point. The nothingness doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't need to be held on to. It simply exists, like the darkness of the night sky, endless and calm. You can picture it now. The room around you feels quieter. Your body feels heavier, melting down into the surface beneath you. Your thoughts are fewer and slower, drifting away like bubbles that rise and disappear. This is where you stop being separate from the quiet. You are the quiet. You are the stillness. You are the nothing. Patrick, in his silly way, might say, I think I turned into a pillow, a big, soft, pink pillow. And honestly, it's the best thing ever. And maybe you can let yourself feel that way too. Like you're turning into something soft, warm, and completely at ease. Not a person who has to do things, or solve problems, or even stay awake. Just a cozy presence, blending into the gentle hush of the night. The more you let go, the more everything around you fades into a soft blur. The edges of the room, the details of the day, even the sounds outside, they all grow distant and gentle, like echoes underwater, until the only thing left is the steady rhythm of your breathing, in and out, slow and calm. Patrick might sigh here and whisper, this is it. This is the secret. When you do nothing long enough, nothing does you, and it's amazing. And that's the gift. The nothing begins to hold you like a giant invisible hammock. You don't need to swing yourself. The world rocks you gently. You don't need to think. The quiet thinks for you. You don't need to try. The stillness carries you. And as you rest deeper into that nothing, you may notice a kind of warmth spreading inside you. Not the warmth of effort or activity, but the warmth of peace. A peace that says, it's okay to stop. It's okay to rest. It's okay to be nothing for a while. Patrick might roll onto his back and whisper, if this is nothing, I think it's everything I ever wanted. And in a way, that's the truth. Nothing is not empty. It's full of exactly what you need. Quiet, rest, calm, and softness. So now, as you lie here, you can let yourself sink even deeper. Feel your body grow heavier. Feel your breath grow slower. Feel your mind grow quieter. Until all that's left is a soft, floating awareness, like a bubble drifting in the dark. Patrick's voice might fade here, softer and softer. You're doing so good at nothing. So good. Just let go now. Let the nothing hold you. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about anything. Just And then even he would drift away into silence. A gentle snore, a soft sigh, and then Nothing. And in that silence, you too can rest. Completely safe. Completely soft. Completely one with nothing. The story is finished. The words have dissolved. There's nothing more to hear. Nothing more to do. Only the quiet remains. And in that quiet, you can float off into the deepest rest, into the coziest dream, into nothing.